Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Bob Campana. Bob, thank you so much for being here today.
Aaron, I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to it.
Your energy, even before we came on, is awesome. So thank you for bringing that. I know you said it's morning wherever the sun is shining somewhere, but for me, it's the afternoon and one Coke Zero behind where I like to be every day. So I appreciate the energy, even all the way from California.
Yeah, and it's hard to maintain energy in California the way that we're beat down on a daily basis in business. But you know what? It's what it is. So we just got to keep a stiff upper lip and keep moving forward, baby.
And that's where I want to start. I encourage everyone to read the full bio in every episode before we start. But your passion, your book, which everyone should get, I'm going to order my copy. Your book, your passion has been or is, at this point, I think, in addition to other things, inspiring others to build businesses or view business or business mistakes in a different way. And part of that, I think, is what you just mentioned, which is the energy of continuing when being beat down, which is the energy of having a plan, following the plan, shuffling, reshuffling, moving around, that entrepreneurial spirit. So my first question is, where does that come from? Take us back. Take us back to the early times.
Well, if we really want to go all the way back, which I haven't even shared this story. When I was a little boy, on occasion, maybe when I was 8, 9 years old, I'd go to bed and my parents would have arguments about money. And I would hear them in my bedroom. The door was closed, but I would hear them. And I vowed to myself at that age, I would not ever be in that position. I would always be able to provide for myself and go forward. And that challenge has lifted me through many different evolutions in my career. But at the end of the day, I would say building a business started out when I took a trip around the world, which is in my book. I was 21 years old. I sold all my possessions and I took a trip for 8 months and visited like 22 countries around the world, kind of like the backpack hippie thing, you know? When I came back, I stood on a bridge on an overpass on the 101 in San Francisco and saw a sea of cars with one person in it. The wealth that represented after I had just come back from India and the Middle East and different places where the opportunity was not there. I told myself at that point, I am not going to squander the opportunity America offers. And at 21 years old, I decided to start my own business with $500.
I love that. I love the vision. I'm going to jump ahead and back because this is how ADD works and your energy is feeding it. So I like it. Do you still think that's the case? Do you still think that everyone who's listening today, in whatever way they're looking at it, should say, and I agree with you, by the way, and my father, he should rest in peace, literally started as a messenger in the insurance business and then built an insurance agency that supported me and my siblings and my family. So I believe in the American dream and I believe in not squandering everything that America has to offer. Do you still think that we can have that vision today without getting political?
I do. Well, it is political, but it is true. America still is a shining light. It still has an opportunity for advancement like no other place. However, it seems that in a political sense, our government and our legislators and everybody are sucking the life's blood out of the American dream through taxation and other regulation.
So if you were coming back from that trip today, you landed from wherever the last country was, you have the $500 and you landed today, what would you do?
Well, you know, like if we look at the current news situation where the price of entry-level workers and this AI revolution is eliminating these entry-level positions, or so we're hearing it is going to eliminate those entry-level positions to get work experience and to get all of the things that you're required to be able to, like you said, provide for your family. And I believe that self-sufficiency is promoted online tremendously amount, affiliate marketing, blah, 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 all these different types of things that people are trying to find their own way to be independent, to find their own income and not be dependent upon a job. Well, providing jobs for others is fulfilling, and growing a business is fulfilling. It's going to be one of the harder things you're ever going to do in life, but it's going to be the most fulfilling thing you're going to do as well. So as a challenge is concerned, you hear people, oh, I want to follow my passion. You have to enjoy what you do. And the root of it at my age has come down to the human experience and being able to provide an experience for not only yourself, but for others in your normal discourse of daily life. And that can be easily done in operating a business, because when you're operating a business, you're interconnecting with people. Now, my experience is brick and mortar small companies. I built a swimming pool and landscaping construction company from zero with that $500 to $17 million in sales. And I sold that company. When I sold that company, I basically was going to semi-retired. I bought myself a Bell Jet Ranger helicopter and was going to enjoy life. And one of the things about business, which I would tie into being a pilot, is when you're flying, you're never on course all the time. You're basically, the wind will blow you off course a little bit. A thermal will bring you up in elevation and so forth. So when you're flying, you're constantly making minor corrections as to what the environment is feeding you. That's the same thing that happens in small business. You can't just go and go. You have to correct. You have to make changes. You have to make adjustments as to what's happening to you. And being able to make those small, minor corrections on a constant basis, that flexibility is how you're going to grow a business.
You fed me a perfect highlight that I have sitting on my desk here. And this is a description from the description of your book. Readers will come away seeing their own capacity for resilience, persistence, and adaptability. With Campana's golden rule, I want to focus on this for a few minutes, please. Etched into their minds, stay the course, adapt to change, never stop moving towards your vision. That, if I could steal it, would be the actual definition of keep hustling and what we're trying to build here. But I think
I knight you, you'll be able to use it. But
thank you.
At the end of the day, you want to have, the thing is that persistence and doggedness to basically face your challenges and move forward on a daily basis, because you know as well as I do, in business, you can't predict where the next problem's going to come from, where the issue's going to come from, and it's your ability to be able to look, focus, and work through that problem. And as experience goes, you don't get emotional. Emotions are what are going to take you away from being successful, because then these emotions are too raw. They're, a lot of times, no filter, whatever it might be. When I was a young man, I'd get so emotional. I get mad. I get angry. I'd yell at employees. I do all the kinds of things. I was so frustrated until I actually learned to control my emotions and basically focus on what is the problem at hand. That's when I really started moving forward in a much more rapid way. And I had people follow me because I wasn't belittling them or tearing them down. That was immaturity on my part. As I turned around and grew and understood how I could make these human connections, when you can basically lead people, what your team is able to achieve through that leadership is actually how these businesses grow and prosper. And I'm sure with your business and your second generation of being in the insurance industry, you would back me up 100% that the leadership component is what's going to grow your company.
100%. And I believe that that's also part of the whole adaptability conversation. So many people, we were told decades ago, my father used to speak about this. I hear this. I've heard this. I've been in it for 20 years now. Insurance agents are going to die. Everyone's going to want to buy on the internet. No one's going to talk to people. No, this is insurance, this, that. Insurance didn't die. Landscaping didn't die. Pools didn't die. Construction didn't die. None of that died. But the people who are the most successful are the ones who adapt to that. And I think that part of not getting emotional, in addition to not yelling at people, I was the same way. My mother will tell you that she had to deal with a lot of damage control early on in my career. But the ability to say that you're going to be resilient and keep moving forward, to chase the dream or to keep hustling, is then what helps you in every single way. Because the people who get, I believe that the emotion is intrinsically linked to being stuck in your own ways. And sometimes when you realize that every business evolved, Steve Jobs didn't think that Apple was going to be what it was. Michael Dell didn't think that Dell Computers was going to be. Jeff Bezos started selling books. And now people don't even, other than your book being on Amazon, most people don't even think of books as an afterthought on Amazon, right? So
I agree, yeah.
So I think that there's some of that where it's, if a person puts the ego aside in entrepreneurship or in leadership and says, that can lead me to two promised lands that I want to get to. One, it's going to empower my employees and empower others to help me get to where I want to. And two, it's going to help me adapt and say, maybe I was wrong about this approach. And if I get off the train quick enough before it crashes, I actually might even see a greater future.
Yes. And one of the challenges of being an entrepreneur these days, I believe in so many regards. Now, I'm a brick and mortar guy. A lot of the entrepreneurs that we see like online and so forth are doing this online. Me, I'm a part of a community. I did the pool business, and the pool business revolved around people's dreams. People would achieve a certain amount of financial success, and one of the ways that they would reward themselves was through love of their family and wanting to have something that they could create on their own. So when we would go in and build a swimming pool for a family, this was kind of like a recognition to those people that they had increased a certain amount of financial success. But another thing is that they could have something aesthetical, create something for their family, and create, at the end of the day, memories. What they were buying the pool for was the birthday parties, for the hot dog barbecues, for the friends and family coming over and enjoying companionship and together, and the pool was a facility for that. So when I'm kind of tying this into insurance to a certain degree, because when I was building these pools and I was selling, and that's what all insurance contracts require is a sale for you to be able to get that contract, to be able to have someone part with their hard-earned dollars to assign that risk to someone else. They were assigning to me their memories. When I understood that, I basically made my sales presentations predicated around the memories that we would be able to create from the project. And I was able to get a premium price for that because the other vendors were selling on the price, and the price was demeaning the value of the project.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's true, because the person who sells to the bottom dollar won't get as much profit because ultimately your cost was the same, but you're able to sell that vision. I want to ask you about, you talk about staying the course, adapting to change, and never stopping moving forward. Can you take us to a moment in your career in any of the businesses that you owned, but after the 500, or when you started seeing a little bit of success, where there was a moment where you had the opportunity to adapt or not, and because you adapted or how you adapted, you were able to continue your success? Because I think that young people today are so, and all entrepreneurs today, young and old, are so scared to make that pivot, even though they know it's right.
Yeah, the pivot is extremely important, and I had to do that on several different instances. I referenced a helicopter. When I was a little boy, I watched helicopters fly over me, and I told myself one day that I would fly a helicopter. Well, as I reached a certain amount of success, I went out and bought myself a helicopter, and I hired a guy to teach me how to fly it. It took me around 18 months to get my license. And then when I flew it, I'm in the pool business, and what I'm doing is I'm flying over new subdivisions and looking in these backyards as potential projects on what I can do. And I had this revelation. I go, all of these subdivisions are controlled by the developer prior to the owner getting the property. So what I did is I went down and I propositioned the developers. I said, look, if I make a deal with you and give you a percentage of the profit of the project, will you let me build the project prior to the people moving in? That way I could put the project on the 30-year mortgage and not be on a 15-year home improvement loan and not compete against all the other builders, because I would have exclusive right to build the pool while the home was under construction. I built a stable of 13 developers that basically fed me jobs, and I didn't have to go out and find jobs anymore. They were providing them for me, but I had to make that pivot and make an adjustment where I had to pay a commission to a developer. So what I did is I just adjusted the price upward to absorb the commission, and what I ended up with was getting all the gravy jobs out of those subdivisions. And when the people moved in, they didn't have to go through the construction process. They could basically move in and have that birthday party the same night they moved into the house. So it worked out to be a great scenario. It got to a point to where I was taking so many of the good jobs. One of my competitors came in and basically bought my company from me because he couldn't compete with it. He just made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And I go, that's fine. I'll go do something else. And I sold him the business.
And by the way, what's amazing in that is it piggybacks on your previous point. That made you even this is going to be a double negative. That made you even less the least expensive, because when you increase the price, because you had a vision, because you had that view, because you had the partnership mentality, because you had the pivot, you actually became more expensive than the competitor because you absorbed the cost of the commission.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Our jobs were 25 to 35, 40% more than the competitor's job. There was a twofold for that. One was the mindset of the customer at the particular point in the process. They were buying a new home. I think that there's some studies that basically say after somebody buys a new home, within 2 to 3 years, they buy a new car. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that are associated with this identity of an individual. And when they were able to get the cook session, get the barbecue installed, get a lawn, landscaping, lighting, all of that. So what I basically, my theme was dirt to Disneyland. And what I would basically take their home and I would transform it into an oasis for them in their backyard, which was basically fulfilling their dream. And everybody has dreams. And I basically was brought into a story that I share with people. I was building a pool, or being a bid on a pool, for a very elderly couple that normally would not be a pool customer. They were in their mid-70s, and they're building this beautiful colonial home, and they're putting in the swimming pool. And I asked the woman, and I go, ma'am, this isn't anything negative, but at your age, why are you building this big house and pool? She goes, well, my husband was not successful financially until later in life. And now that we have these resources, we want to build this home for our family to enjoy our last years in our home, our dream, so to speak. When we're making this interview, they had just gotten a delivery of maybe $150,000 worth of Anderson windows in a colonial home. The beautiful, 10-pane doors, French doors going into the dining room and all of this. And they were all wrapped up in the building. They had just been delivered. And there's a guy working there. And the lady goes, could you excuse me for a minute? She walks over to the carpenter and she goes, my husband and I were measuring the opening for the dining room, and it's askew. It's off center, and I don't think our door is going to fit in there. Would you do me a favor and repair that? The guy goes, yeah, I'll do that. So we're talking, and this guy walks over and grabs a sledgehammer and basically just whacks this frickin' board. It startled us that he did that. She turned around and walked over to him and said, you are stealing my dream. That was so impactful because it made me focus on the fact that all of my jobs were people's dreams. Every one of them was in a different level. And being a provider of people's dreams was a very sacred place. And when I looked at that and I made my team understand it, and I basically made my presentations revolve around the aspect that I understood the motivation of where they're buying their dreams, that was able to provide a premium price, because the thinking was focused on the cost as much on the future of what they would get the memories out of the product. And I do the same thing with restaurants. I build these restaurants with nonverbal communication, and nonverbal communication starts when the people walk in. It's aesthetically beautiful. The lighting is great. The music is just right. The hostess does everything. I let them escape into a situation where there is a minor little reward on the end of their day, where the wife and husband could go out to dinner, or two couples can go out and enjoy themselves. I'm totally focused in on acoustics. I want people to hear what they're talking and so forth. So I'm creating this environment to let people enjoy moments away from the screen, because as I travel around the world, everybody has their face buried in a screen. Whether you are in India, you're in Italy, you're in Australia, I don't really care. People are looking at these screens. So this human connection is fleeting, but it's the highest value of our lives when we can connect with other human beings and we can serve them. So any young entrepreneur that has to develop their interpersonal skills where they can communicate with people, because I'm here to tell you, at this point, it could be in the future, but most chatbots don't have credit cards, and most chatbots don't buy stuff. People buy stuff. And how do you make that connection with people is a skill that's getting less and less attained by young people because they're in their screen. I've heard that 85 to 90% of all communication is data-driven, which is text messages, and a lot of young people are even intimidated to make a voice call. That has to change, but tech is not allowing that.
It's, by the way, in our business, we make a lot of phone calls. I spend a lot of time on the phone, and it shocks people when you answer the phone or when you call people. Sometimes it's like shocking. Hey, if someone fills out our form on our website for new business, I immediately call them. No text, no email, call them. And somebody answers the phone and say, hey, it's Aaron Gordon from Gordon Companies. And they say, what? Human? Really? Gordon? No way. So I appreciate that. I also just want to point out something I was thinking about while you were talking, and then I have to ask you another question. And that is, there is one place, and it's ironic that we're having this whole conversation, or it's interesting. There's one place where they haven't figured out for people to be on their phone, or almost nobody can be on their phone, and that is in a swimming pool.
Oh, yeah. Well, they actually have like speakers that work underwater now and so forth.
They have speakers that work underwater. They have the thing that you can put your phone in. But if you think about, I remarked this to my wife, I think 2 summers ago, that it's really, or maybe last summer, kids in a swimming pool are not on their phones. People might on the side, but like they're still playing chicken and Marco Polo and all those things. I think it's interesting because the way that you describe it and the way that you describe the relationships and the vision and the dream that's really what people want.
That's what we
want to create the connection, right? You know what I'm saying?
Aaron, that's what we work for. If you look at your motivation in the still of the night and your family, you go to work each day to provide for them your dream of their enhanced life because of your work. And everybody is working in that way, but a lot of people don't know how to manage that in such a way that they can have an impact on others. Now, when you're selling, you have to basically make that nexus that basically transfers the money is not as valuable as the service that I'm going to get for that. And especially in insurance and in swimming pools, we're selling intangibles. We're selling something that may happen, and when it happens, you're going to take care of it. When I was selling a pool, I had to make a sketch of it. I couldn't show them a picture. I couldn't open a box and say, here it is. I had to build the dream. I had to tell them what they were going to receive from spending the money. Then I had to have them make a commitment to that. Then I had to build out that dream as to what they interpreted it was so that it came to fruition. If I gave them a misrepresentation of what I was going to build them and it started building, the wheels are going to fall off and they're going to call you out on it. On the other hand, if things were going the way that they dreamed, they were happy, they were excited about it, and that was where the separation came from. I'm getting my dream, and it might cost me a little bit more, but I can justify it in my mind because I'm getting what I wanted.
I absolutely love that. I want to pivot this conversation before we close. I feel a great privilege that you began your first answer saying that you never shared the story, or you rarely share the story of why you wanted to become successful. And you said when you were a little boy, you heard your parents fighting about finances and you never wanted to have to worry about finances. And then later, a few minutes later, you said when you were a little boy, you wanted to buy a helicopter and therefore you bought a helicopter. I know your career is not over. I know that you're starting a podcast. I know you wrote this book. I know that you're influencing more people now than you probably thought you would then. But it's really remarkable and inspiring to me to hear someone say the words, when I was a little boy, I wanted X. And I think you can say that you got those two things.
No question about it. And that comes to when you have dreams, don't let anybody extinguish them. You don't have to share them with people, but you need to cherish them and nurture them and work towards them every day. And when you achieve those dreams and goals, the amount of self-confidence that is generated inside yourself, the amount of fulfillment that you receive from achieving that dream is the reward that you are going to get. And that is only going to come through persistence of being able to hang in there, because one day you're going along and everything's going smooth. The next day you're going along and it seems like you're running in peanut butter, but you're doing the same thing. It basically, life does not hand out continuity. It hands out random stuff, and the ability to be able to adjust and to change with that while maintaining a positive mental attitude is the education that most people are not receiving now.
There's a great quote that I love. I don't even know who it's attributed to, that goes, imagine how big you would dream if you knew you couldn't fail.
Yes, and it's so true. And the thing is that we see that in the tech world. We see that in business as a general rule of thumb, where these companies are going to massive global size from people's initial idea on how to scale a particular technology or how to scale a particular thing. However, in my personal life, for me to have fulfillment, I need human connection. I need to be able to do things with people and interconnect with people and look at them in their eye and basically know that I'm connecting with people, because I don't get fulfillment from a screen on a phone. I get fulfillment from interconnecting with people, and then me being able to serve that person and know in my heart that I made their day a little bit better. That I get 10 times more out of it than they get. You know, the whole thing of giving is better than receiving type of thing. And when your mindset is like that, now I have grown probably 10 or 12 young men over the course of my career. I had 4 daughters. Okay. So I've got 4 son-in-laws now, but I never had the son. So as I was building my pool company, as I was going along, I would adopt these young men that had ambition and drive and nurture them and grow them to where they basically become fulfilled, young, productive Americans. And on some of my podcasts, I'll be interviewing some people. One man in particular comes to mind. His name was Danny Tabera. He served our country in Iraq. He went on 2 tours. He's held multiple friends in his arms as they died. And he came back and our country had broken him. He was a broken person. He was a 2-time Iraqi Marine, and he started working in my restaurant as a dishwasher. The guy is like 24 years old, 25 years old. He went from a dishwasher to an expediter to working with me, building custom homes, to a point to where I kicked him out of the nest and he went on his own. And he just got his license as a Caltrans train engineer. And the joy that gives me to see that man pick up the pieces from a broken life and reconnect and put it together and to go forward is what we as entrepreneurs need to do. We need to give back to young people. We need to realize that there's a crisis of young men, primarily young men, not knowing how to go about making their way in life. The young girls, they can get like 50,000 views just by being in a bikini on TikTok, where a young kid, a young man, he gets like 1 view because somebody doesn't care about his, and it's demoralizing. So my message would be to all young, successful, or any entrepreneur to take a look at trying mentorship and trying to encourage young people and see the fulfillment that you're going to receive. Now, in your particular case, I'm assuming you nurture your salespeople. You basically work with your team to grow them as individuals, and that's your station and what you're doing. But a lot of entrepreneurs might not have that setting, but they could go out into the community and basically see who they can help and what they can do and acts as a beacon for that, because so many men in our age, my age, 72 or whatever it was a different era where we built our businesses. Now with all technology, but at the end of the day, a community is made up of brick and mortar companies. It's when you can go to a restaurant, you can go to a bakery, you can go to a vendor of whatever it might be. Those are the interconnections that make your community, and those people need to be supported. And at the end of the day, technology is robbing us of those interpersonal connections. I'm guilty, man. I buy from Amazon every freaking day. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I still go in and I support those local companies and those local businesses. And everyone should do that to maintain the strength of your community.
100%. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the inspiration. I appreciate the small amount of mentorship here. I ordered the book. Everyone should buy the book. Don't look down. Check it out on Amazon, because Barnes & Noble is really hard to find now, and buying books in person is hard, even though you and I would both love to do that.
Yeah.
As you know, we have a closed tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational and inspirational quote and what it means to them and to their hustle. And with that, I'm going to say thank you again, Bob Campana, for being here. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for inspiring me and all of our listeners. And the floor is yours.
Well, I thought about it, and the quote is historically very famous. It was made by Winston Churchill at the end of World War II. Never, 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 never give up.
I can hear my father saying it. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.